stop scrolling. There is an invisible tax on your life right now that you didn't agree to pay. 3 massive corporations decide if you live or die based entirely on your bank account balance. The inventor sold the patent for $1 single to save humanity. He wanted it free for everyone. But today, it is a legalized cartel robbing you blind while you struggle to survive. This is not healthcare. It is a hostage situation. And unfortunately, you are the hostage. I am exposing the modern Rockefeller model. Watch this video before you pay another medical bill.
What if I told you there's an invisible tax on your right to exist, and 3 massive corporations have decided in secret exactly how much you must pay to not die today? I'm not talking about income tax or inflation. I'm talking about something far more insidious. A predatory financial architecture engineered into the very heart of the American healthcare system. You've felt it, haven't you? That suffocating pressure when you're standing at the pharmacy counter, staring at a price that makes absolutely no sense. You've heard the stories. Neighbors choosing between their rent and their medicine, friends rationing their insulin, parents breaking down in tears because they can't afford to keep their child alive. But here's what nobody is telling you. This isn't a market failure. This is a market masterpiece. For nearly a century, a life-saving technology that was supposed to belong to the world has been hijacked. It's been weaponized into a multi-billion-dollar industry where the product costs less than a deli sandwich to make. Yet it's sold at a markup that would make even a Gilded Age robber baron blush. We're talking about insulin, a drug discovered over 100 years ago by scientists who refused to profit from it, who believed it was a gift to humanity. Frederick Banting, one of its discoverers, sold the patent for $1 because he thought it was unethical to profit from something people needed to survive. Let that sink in for a moment. $1. Because he believed healthcare was a human right, not a business opportunity. But somewhere along the way, that noble vision was gutted. What replaced it wasn't innovation or competition. It was consolidation, manipulation, and what I call the modern Rockefeller model. You're going to learn exactly what that means in just a moment, and trust me, once you see it, you can't unsee it. This is a sophisticated cartel that uses the US patent system not to protect innovation, but as a legalized weapon of economic extraction. They've turned a simple molecule into a financial labyrinth so complex that even lawyers get lost in it. And while they're making record profits, Americans are dying. Not because the science isn't there, not because the medicine doesn't exist, but because they can't afford it. Have you ever wondered why your bank account looks like a crime scene at the end of the month, despite working harder than ever? You're not imagining it. You're not bad with money. You're caught in a system that was designed to drain you. Every insurance premium, every copay, every rejected claim, it's all part of a mechanism engineered to extract maximum value from your need to stay alive. And insulin is just the beginning. It's the most visible symptom of a disease that runs much deeper through the entire pharmaceutical industry. So why does a vial of insulin cost $10 to produce, but sell for $300 at your local pharmacy? Why do the same drug manufacturers who claim they need high prices to fund research spend more on stock buybacks and executive bonuses than they do on actual innovation? And why, despite all the outrage and all the headlines, does nothing ever seem to change? Because the system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover will fundamentally change how you see not just healthcare, but the entire relationship between corporations, government, and your survival. This isn't just about insulin, it's about power. It's about a handful of companies that have figured out how to turn your desperation into their dividend. And they've done it so skillfully, so systematically, that most people don't even realize they're being robbed until it's too late. You already know something is deeply wrong. You've felt it every time you've opened a medical bill or heard another story of someone starting a GoFundMe just to afford their medication. But what you haven't seen yet is the blueprint, the exact playbook these corporations use to keep you paying, keep you dependent, and keep you just grateful enough to be alive that you don't ask too many questions. What you're going to discover now may shock you, it may anger you, but most importantly, It's going to arm you with the truth. And the truth, as they say, is the first step to breaking free. Before we dive deeper into how this machine really works, I need you to understand something crucial. Your voice matters more than you think. If you or someone you love has ever stood at a pharmacy counter in complete disbelief, staring at a receipt that felt like a punch to the gut, you've experienced this extortion firsthand. You've felt that sickening mixture of rage and helplessness when the number on the screen is so high that you have to ask them to repeat it, because surely there's been some kind of mistake. But there's no mistake. This is the system working exactly as intended. The big three corporations controlling the insulin market, along with their Wall Street enablers and their army of lobbyists, they're counting on something very specific from you: your silence. They're betting that you'll feel alone in your frustration, that you'll internalize this as somehow your personal failure, rather than recognizing it as systematic robbery. They want you to believe that if you just worked a little harder, budgeted a little better, sacrificed a little more, you could afford to stay alive without going bankrupt. That's the lie they need you to keep swallowing. This channel exists to shatter that illusion. We're dedicated to pulling back the curtain on the hidden architecture of power, money, and control that shapes your daily reality. We expose the mechanisms that the algorithm would rather keep buried, the financial engineering that mainstream media won't touch because their advertisers are the same pharmaceutical companies bleeding you dry. Every video we create is an act of transparency in a system built on deliberate opacity. And here's the truth: we can't do this without you. Hit that like button right now, not because I'm asking for a favor, but because it's a signal. It tells YouTube's algorithm that you want truth over corporate advertising, that you want substance over sponsored content. Every like is a vote that pushes this message past the carefully curated walls they've built to keep you consuming and complying. And here's what I really need from you. Drop a comment below and tell me, what's the most outrageous price jump you've personally seen for a basic necessity? Maybe it was insulin or another life-saving medication. Maybe it was your rent that doubled in 2 years while your salary stayed flat. Maybe it was a utility bill that exploded for no apparent reason. Share your story, because when you do, you're doing something powerful. You're breaking the isolation they need to maintain control. Your engagement here isn't just metrics. It's a form of resistance against a system that treats you as a renewable resource to be harvested indefinitely. When you comment, when you share your experience, you're creating a record that can't be erased, a collective testimony that proves this isn't happening in a vacuum. You're connecting with thousands of others who thought they were alone in their struggle. And if you're not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button, because this is just the beginning. We're building a community that refuses to accept that survival should come with a price tag designed by corporate executives and hedge fund managers. The stories you share in the comments become part of a larger narrative that no PR firm can spin away. They become evidence, they become solidarity, and they become fuel for the fight ahead. So don't hold back. Tell us what you've seen, what you've experienced, what keeps you up at night worrying about how you're going to afford to simply exist. Because what we're about to reveal next will give you the context to understand that your struggle isn't personal, it's structural. And understanding the structure is the first step to dismantling it. Now let's get into the machinery itself. Every trap, every system of exploitation has what I call a moment zero, the precise point where something pure gets corrupted, where a gift to humanity becomes a weapon against it. For insulin, that moment zero was 1923. Frederick Banting and his team had just accomplished something miraculous. They'd isolated insulin, cracked the code that would save millions of people from a death sentence called diabetes. And when it came time to patent this discovery, to stake their claim on what could have made them unimaginably wealthy, Banting did something that seems almost incomprehensible by today's standards. He sold the patent to the University of Toronto for $1. $1 single. Think about that for a moment. He had leverage over life and death itself, and he chose to give it away. Banting famously said, "Insulin does not belong to me, it belongs to the world." He refused to profit from a miracle because he understood something fundamental about medicine and morality, that some things are simply too important to be commodified, too essential to human survival to be locked behind a paywall. His vision was radical in its simplicity. If you discovered something that could save lives, you had a moral obligation to make it accessible to everyone who needed it, not just those who could afford it. That was the founding principle. That was the promise. That was the world we were supposed to inherit. But somewhere between that noble beginning and where we are today, the paradigm shifted. It didn't happen overnight. These transformations never do. It was gradual, deliberate, a slow erosion of humanitarian principles in favor of what corporate boardrooms call asset maximization. The language changed first. Patients became consumers. Healthcare became an industry. Life-saving medications became products with profit margins to optimize and shareholder value to maximize. And insulin, that gift Banting gave to the world, became one of the most lucrative assets in the pharmaceutical empire. Now here's where the story gets really dark, where you start to see the machinery behind the curtain. In a healthy, functioning market, the kind they teach you about in economics textbooks, competition drives prices down. When multiple companies make the same product, they compete for your business by offering better quality, better service, or better prices. That's capitalism 101, right? That's the free market promise. But in the insulin market, something very different happened. The three dominant players, Eli Lilly, Novo Nordisk, and Sanofi, they didn't compete with each other. Instead, they moved their prices upward in perfect, documented synchrony. This phenomenon has a name: shadow pricing. And it's not a conspiracy theory. It's a documented pattern that's been analyzed by researchers, reported in medical journals, and investigated by Congress. Let me give you the numbers, because the numbers tell a story that's almost too outrageous to believe. The list price of a single 10 milliliter vial of Humalog, one of the most commonly prescribed insulins in America, was $21 in 1996. Fast forward to recent years, and that exact same formula, not improved, not redesigned, the exact same molecular structure, costs over $275. That's a 1,200% increase for a product that hasn't fundamentally changed in decades. We're not talking about a new iPhone with better features. We're not talking about a car with upgraded technology. We're talking about the same drug, in the same vial, with the same effectiveness it had 30 years ago, now priced at more than 13 times what it used to cost. But it gets worse. Between 2009 and 2015, researchers documented 13 separate instances where Sanofi and Novo Nordisk raised prices for their competing insulin products by almost identical percentages within 24 hours of each other. Think about the mathematical improbability of that happening by chance. These are massive multinational corporations with different cost structures, different supply chains, different market strategies, and yet somehow, mysteriously, they decided to raise their prices by nearly the same amount on nearly the same day, again and again and again over a 6-year period. They weren't competing for your business. They were collaborating to raise the ceiling on what it costs to stay alive. This is what I call the modern Rockefeller model, and once you understand it, you'll see it everywhere in American healthcare. John D. Rockefeller didn't become the richest man in history by making better oil. He did it by controlling the infrastructure. He bought the railroads, the pipelines, the refineries. He made it impossible to compete because he owned every point in the supply chain. The insulin cartel operates on the exact same principle. They don't need to outcompete each other because they've collectively eliminated your options. They control the patents through a process called evergreening, where they make tiny, inconsequential modifications to the formula, tweaking a molecule here, adjusting a delivery mechanism there, just enough to extend the patent protection for another 20 years. They control the supply chain, the distribution networks, the relationships with pharmacy benefit managers who negotiate prices. They've built a system so complex, so deliberately opaque, that even trying to understand how your insulin gets priced feels like navigating a labyrinth designed by people who don't want you to find the exit. And here's the truly insidious part. This isn't just about insulin. Insulin is the test case, the proof of concept. It's how they figured out exactly how much they can extract from people before the public outcry becomes loud enough to threaten their business model. And what they discovered is that they can push pretty far. Because what are you going to do? Not buy insulin? Not take the medication that keeps you alive? They've engineered a scenario where your demand is perfectly inelastic. Economic speak for you have no choice. And in a system where you have no choice, the one setting the price has all the power. Now I want to go even deeper into this, because understanding the price is just the beginning. What you need to see next is how the money actually flows, who's profiting at each stage of this extraction, and why the system is designed to make sure you never see the full picture. Drop a comment right now and just write, "I see the machine." Let me know you're following this thread, because what comes next is going to connect dots you didn't even know existed. So how do they keep this monopoly alive for over 100 years? How does a system this blatantly exploitative survive in plain sight, in a country that supposedly celebrates free markets and competition? The answer lies in a pair of psychological and legal cages that are so brilliantly engineered, so perfectly camouflaged as legitimate business practice, that most people don't even realize they're trapped inside them. These mechanisms have names, and once you learn them, you'll start seeing them everywhere. Evergreening and patent thicketing. Here's how the game works. In theory, when a drug patent expires, generic manufacturers are supposed to be able to enter the market and produce cheaper versions of that medication. That's the deal society makes with pharmaceutical companies. You get a period of exclusivity to recoup your research costs and make a profit, and then the patent expires and competition brings the price down so everyone can afford it. That's the promise. That's how the system is supposed to function. But the insulin manufacturers figured out a loophole, a way to game the patent system so thoroughly that the original deal becomes meaningless. Instead of allowing cheap generics to flood the market when their patents expire, these companies file dozens, sometimes hundreds of new patents on secondary features of the drug. Not on the insulin itself, they can't repatent the same molecule, but on everything around it. The injection pen, the twist mechanism, the needle cap, the delivery device, the packaging. Sanofi, for example, filed over 70 patent applications on Lantus alone, one of their blockbuster insulin products. If all of those patents were granted, they would have secured a 37-year monopoly on a drug whose primary patent had already expired. Think about what that means. The core invention, the actual life-saving medication, is public domain. But you can't access it affordably because they've locked up every possible way to deliver it. This strategy has a technical name in the industry: patent thicketing. They create such a dense thicket of overlapping patents that any company trying to produce a generic version has to navigate a legal minefield. Even if you could manufacture the insulin itself, you'd get sued for infringing on the pen design, the cartridge mechanism, the dosing interface. It's a wall of litigation waiting to happen, and most generic manufacturers look at that wall and decide it's not worth the fight. The legal costs alone could bankrupt them before they ever get a product to market. So they walk away, and the monopoly remains intact. But it gets even more insidious, because they figured out how to force you onto newer, more expensive versions of drugs that aren't actually better. This tactic is called product hopping, and it's a masterclass in manufacturing obsolescence for human bodies. Here's how it works. Just before an old patent is about to expire and generics are about to enter the market, the company makes a minor, often cosmetic change to the drug or its delivery system. Maybe they tweak the injection pen slightly. Maybe they change the dosing schedule. Maybe they alter the concentration just enough to require a new prescription. Then they aggressively market this new and improved version to doctors. They stop manufacturing the old version, and they make sure your insurance only covers the new, still patented, much more expensive product. From a clinical standpoint, these changes are often meaningless. 85% of these device patents don't even mention the chemical structure of insulin. They're not improving the medicine. They're not making it more effective. They're just redesigning the plastic shell it comes in, the mechanical gears inside the pen, the color of the cap. But legally, it's a brand new product with brand new patent protection, which means brand new prices with no generic competition. And you, the patient, are forced to switch. Your doctor gets convinced through marketing that this is an upgrade. Your pharmacy stops stocking the old version. Your insurance company, which has its own financial arrangements with these manufacturers, only covers the new one. You didn't consent to this. You didn't ask for an upgrade. But suddenly, Your medication costs have doubled or tripled, and you have no choice but to pay. This is what I call engineering for captivity. They've designed a system where your permission to stay healthy has an expiration date, and the only way to renew it is to pay whatever price they've decided to charge this year. It's a forced repurchase cycle built into your survival, a subscription model for your own life that you never agreed to. They've turned a biological necessity into a recurring revenue stream, and they've done it using the Patent Office, a government institution that's supposed to encourage innovation, as a legal weapon against the very competition that's supposed to make capitalism work for consumers. The real revelation here, the thing that should make your blood boil, is that none of this has anything to do with making better medicine. These aren't innovations. These are legal maneuvers. These are financial instruments disguised as healthcare improvements. The entire apparatus exists for one purpose: to extend monopoly control as long as possible, to keep extracting maximum profit from people who have no ability to walk away. Because what's your alternative? Die? Ration your doses and hope you don't end up in a coma? These companies have done the math, and they know exactly how far they can push before the desperation turns into organized resistance. And here's the most twisted part of the psychology. They've convinced huge portions of the public that this is normal, that this is just how markets work, that if you can't afford your medication, it's somehow a reflection of your personal economic failures rather than a symptom of systemic extraction. They've weaponized the American mythology of self-reliance and bootstrapping to make you feel ashamed of struggling under a system that was designed to make you struggle. They've turned your survival into a moral test that you're failing, when the truth is, the test itself is rigged. Now I want to show you exactly where your money goes once you hand it over at the pharmacy counter, because the flow of cash through this system is even more disturbing than the prices themselves. Write in the comments, the trap is visible now. Let me know you're seeing through the fog, because what comes next exposes the players you didn't even know were at the table. Now let me show you the numbers behind the nightmare, because once you see the actual math, the sheer audacity of this extraction becomes impossible to ignore. It costs roughly $2 to $10 to produce a vial of insulin. That's it. The raw materials, the manufacturing process, the quality control. All of it can be done for less than the price of a fancy coffee. Yet the list price for an American patient routinely exceeds $300 per vial. We're talking about a markup of 3,000% or more on a product that people need to stay alive. This isn't pricing based on value or innovation. This is pricing based on desperation, on the knowledge that you'll pay whatever they demand, because the alternative is death. And the human cost of this equation is staggering. Right now, approximately 1.3 million Americans are rationing their insulin. That's not a number from some dystopian future or a developing nation without healthcare infrastructure. That's happening here, today, in the wealthiest country in human history. Rationing means skipping doses. It means not eating so you don't need as much medication. It means using expired insulin you found in the back of your fridge because you can't afford a fresh supply. It means playing a terrifying game of metabolic roulette where every decision could be the one that sends you into diabetic ketoacidosis, a life-threatening condition where your blood essentially turns acidic because your body can't process sugar without insulin. People end up in emergency rooms, in ICU beds, on ventilators, all because they were trying to stretch their medication another week to make it through to their next paycheck. This is what I call the hidden life tax, and it operates on two levels simultaneously. The first level is purely financial, and the devastation is total. Without the right insurance coverage, some patients are paying $1,000 a month or more just for the privilege of keeping their pancreas functional. Think about what that does to a household budget. $1,000 a month is rent in many parts of the country. It's a car payment and groceries. It's the difference between saving for your kids' education and living paycheck to paycheck with no safety net. And this isn't a one-time expense. It's a permanent mandatory subscription to your own survival that never ends, never gets cheaper, and only seems to get more expensive every year. But the second level of this tax is even more insidious because it's harder to quantify. It's the theft of your time. You aren't just losing money to this system. You're losing hours, days, years of your life to the necessity of funding it. You work extra shifts. You take on a second job. You sacrifice sleep, relationships, experiences, all to generate enough income to pay for a markup that has absolutely no basis in chemistry or medical necessity. This is what economists clinically call human capital extraction. But let me translate that into something more visceral. They're turning you into a renewable resource. They're harvesting your labor, your potential, your dreams, and converting it into pharmaceutical company dividends and executive bonuses. The ripple effects destroy entire life trajectories. Families postpone having children because they can't afford both insulin and pregnancy costs. Young couples give up on buying a home because their survival subscription consumes what should be their down payment. People stay in jobs they hate, in relationships that have long since died, because they can't risk losing the insurance that makes their medication semi-affordable. Your choices, your freedom, your ability to build the life you actually want, all of it gets sacrificed on the altar of corporate profit margins. You become trapped in a permanent state of financial precarity, always one medical emergency or job loss away from catastrophe, and that fear becomes its own form of control. And then there are the stories that should haunt us all, the ones that reveal just how far this system is willing to go. We're talking about parents who've had to bury their children because they couldn't afford insulin. Young adults dying in their 20s from a completely manageable condition because the price of staying alive exceeded what they could earn. Mothers carrying the ashes of their dead children to the doorsteps of pharmaceutical company headquarters, begging executives to look at what their pricing decisions have actually cost. These aren't abstract statistics. These are names, faces, families torn apart by an economic model that decided profit was more important than a young person's life. The cruelty isn't accidental, it's structural. This system treats human beings as crops to be harvested, as raw material to be processed into quarterly earnings reports. Your suffering is converted into stock price appreciation. Your fear of death becomes their leverage in price negotiations. And the truly diabolical aspect is that they've built this machine in such a way that it feels almost natural, like it's just how things work, like the price of insulin is determined by some invisible hand of the market, rather than by very deliberate, very human decisions made in boardrooms by people who will never have to choose between medication and food. The transformation that needs to happen isn't just about lowering drug prices. It's about fundamentally changing our understanding of what healthcare actually is. Is it a human right or a business opportunity? Is medicine something we provide to people because we value human life? Or is it something we sell to them at whatever price the market will bear? Because right now, the answer that system has given us is crystal clear. Your life has a price tag, and if you can't afford to pay it, the system is perfectly content to let you die while it generates profit from the people who can. Now, I want to pull back the curtain even further and show you the players who benefit from this machinery, because it's not just the pharmaceutical companies collecting your money. Drop a comment that says, "I understand the cost now. Let me know this is landing," because what we're about to explore next will show you exactly where every dollar of that 300% markup actually goes. Now let me take you deeper into the machinery, because the pharmaceutical companies you've heard of, Eli Lilly, Novo Nordisk, Sanofi, they're only the visible face of this operation. Behind them, operating in what I call the shadows of the system, there's another layer of extraction that most people have never even heard of. These are the middlemen, the brokers of your desperation, and they've built one of the most profitable businesses in American healthcare by doing absolutely nothing to improve your health. They're called pharmacy benefit managers, or PBMs, and once you understand their role in this machine, the entire picture of how you're being robbed becomes devastatingly clear. The big three PBMs, CVS Caremark, Express Scripts, and Optum Rx, control approximately 80% of all prescriptions flowing through the American healthcare system. 80%. That means that when your doctor writes you a prescription, when you show up at the pharmacy with your insurance card, when you're told what's covered and what's not, when you see that price on the screen that makes you want to scream, all of that has been filtered through one of these three corporate entities. They are the modern equivalent of Rockefeller's South Improvement Company, the railroad monopoly he used to crush his competitors and control the entire oil industry. Except instead of oil, they're controlling access to the medications that keep you alive. Here's how the scam works, and I want you to pay close attention because this is where your money actually disappears. PBMs position themselves as negotiators, as the representatives fighting on behalf of insurance companies and employers to get lower drug prices from manufacturers. That's the story they tell. That's how they justify their existence. But the reality is exactly the opposite. PBMs are completely and systematically addicted to high list prices because their entire business model depends on them. When a manufacturer sets that $300 price tag on a vial of insulin, the PBM negotiates what's called a rebate, essentially a kickback that the manufacturer pays to the PBM in exchange for putting that drug on the approved list, the formulary that your insurance will cover. And here's the critical part. Those rebates are calculated as a percentage of the list price. So if insulin costs $300 and the PBM negotiates a 30% rebate, they get $90 per vial in kickbacks. But if a generic manufacturer tried to enter the market and sell insulin for $50, that same 30% rebate would only be $15. The PBM makes 6 times more money from the expensive version than from the affordable one. So what do you think they do? They systematically exclude the cheaper alternatives from their formularies. They create Byzantine approval processes for generic drugs. They steer doctors toward the most expensive options through their pharmacy networks. Not because those drugs are better, they're often chemically identical, but because the expensive drugs generate the multi-billion-dollar rebate checks that PBMs crave like an addiction. And it gets even more deliberately opaque from there, because the PBMs have figured out how to hide the money trail using what they call rebate aggregators, shadowy entities with innocuous names like Zinc Health, Ascent Health Services, and Emissar. These companies exist as an extra layer between the manufacturer and the PBM, supposedly to process and distribute rebates to insurance companies and employers. But what they actually do is add another level of fees and commissions while making it nearly impossible for anyone, regulators, employers, patients, to trace where the money is actually going. It's financial engineering designed specifically to create confusion, to prevent oversight, to keep the cash flowing to the middlemen while you're left holding the bill. The most infuriating part of this entire structure is what happens at the pharmacy counter. You show up with your prescription, and you're charged the full unrebated list price. Or if you have insurance, you pay a copay that's calculated based on that inflated list price. Meanwhile, the manufacturer has already paid the rebate to the PBM. The PBM has taken their cut, and theoretically some portion of that rebate is supposed to flow back to your insurance company or employer to lower everyone's premiums. But because the system is so deliberately complex and secretive, there's no way to verify that's actually happening. Studies have shown that a huge percentage of these rebates never make it back to the people who are supposed to benefit from them. They just get absorbed as profits somewhere in the chain. This is what I mean when I call it a legalized protection racket. The manufacturer raises the price sky high. The PBM demands a cut of that inflated price in the form of rebates and fees. And you, the patient, pay the full amount at the counter with no access to any of those supposed savings. It's a brilliantly designed system where every player in the middle makes more money the more expensive your medication becomes, and the only person who loses is you. Wall Street absolutely loves these PBM companies because they've engineered something that rarely exists in business. Guaranteed infinite cash flow extracted from a captive customer base that literally cannot refuse to pay. As long as people need medicine to stay alive, and as long as the PBMs control access to that medicine, the money keeps flowing upward with mathematical certainty. The mentality shift that needs to happen here is understanding that these aren't companies improving healthcare. They're financial intermediaries extracting rent from your survival. They don't manufacture drugs. They don't treat patients. They don't fund research. They exist purely to insert themselves between you and your medication, to take a cut of every transaction, and to ensure that the system remains complex enough that you can never figure out who's actually taking your money. It's a masterclass in value extraction disguised as value creation, and it works because most people don't even know PBMs exist until they start digging into why their medication costs what it costs. The revelation here isn't just that you're being overcharged, it's that there's an entire parallel economy built on your desperation, a shadow financial system that generates billions in profit by making healthcare more expensive and less accessible. And everyone involved in this system, From the pharmaceutical executives to the PBM administrators to the Wall Street investors collecting dividends, they all know exactly what they're doing. This isn't an accident or a market inefficiency. This is the intended outcome of a system designed by people who view your health as a commodity and your fear of death as leverage. Now I want to show you what happens when people finally try to fight back against this machine, because the resistance to change tells you everything you need to know about how much money is at stake. Type in the comments, follow the money. Let me know you're tracking this financial architecture, because what comes next is about the battle for reform and why it keeps failing. So you might be sitting there thinking, what can anyone possibly do against something this massive, this entrenched, this protected by law and lobbying dollars? That's exactly the feeling this system is designed to create in you, a sense of total powerlessness, a belief that the machine is too big to fight, that your only option is to keep paying and hope you don't run out of money before you run out of time. But here's what they don't want you to know. The monopoly is finally starting to crack. The resistance is forming, and it's happening on multiple fronts simultaneously in ways that are beginning to genuinely threaten the business model that's been bleeding Americans dry for decades. Let me show you what I call the monopoly killers, the initiatives and movements that are proving the system doesn't have to work this way, that affordable insulin isn't some impossible dream, but a choice that powerful people have simply refused to make until now. The first breakthrough is happening at the state level, and it's being led by California. The state launched something called CalRx, an initiative where California itself is contracting with manufacturers to produce biosimilar insulin and sell it directly to patients at cost. No PBM middlemen, no rebate games, no patent thickets, just manufacturing insulin and selling it for what it actually costs to make, plus a small margin to sustain the program. They're offering vials for $30 and 5 packs of insulin pens for $55. Compare that to the $300 price tag we talked about earlier. This isn't charity. This isn't a government handout. This is simply what happens when you remove the extractive layers of the cartel and let a medication be sold at a price that reflects its actual value rather than the maximum amount you can be forced to pay. What California is doing represents a fundamental shift in the power structure. They're proving that states don't have to be passive victims of pharmaceutical pricing. They can use their purchasing power, their regulatory authority, and their mandate to protect public health to simply bypass the entire corrupt system. And if California succeeds, and early indicators suggest they will, other states are going to follow. We're already seeing similar conversations happening in Washington, Michigan, and Minnesota. This is the beginning of a model where public entities take back control over essential medicines from the corporations that have been holding them hostage. It's a transformation from extraction back to access, from treating insulin as a profit center to treating it as what it actually is, a basic necessity for survival. The second front in this battle is legal, and it's coming from the Federal Trade Commission. After years of investigations, testimonies, and mounting evidence, the FTC has finally filed lawsuits against the largest PBMs for artificially inflating drug prices through what they call chase the rebate strategies, the exact system I just explained to you where PBMs profit more from expensive drugs than cheap ones, so they systematically exclude affordable options. This lawsuit is historic because it's the first time a federal agency has directly challenged the legal framework that protects these middlemen. For decades, PBMs operated in a regulatory gray zone, exploiting loopholes and claiming they were reducing costs while actually driving them up. Now the government is saying in court documents what patients have known for years: this is a scam, and it's costing lives. If the FTC wins these cases, it could force structural changes to how PBMs operate. We're talking about mandatory transparency and rebate calculations, restrictions on formulary manipulation, possibly even breaking up the vertical integration where PBMs own their own pharmacies and insurance companies, creating obvious conflicts of interest. The impact of these legal decisions could ripple through the entire pharmaceutical supply chain, fundamentally altering the incentives that have made healthcare so unaffordable. But this is a long fight, and the PBMs have armies of lawyers and billions of dollars to defend their business model. The outcome isn't guaranteed, but the fact that the battle is finally happening in court, rather than just in think tank reports, represents a shift in political will that would have been unthinkable 5 years ago. The third force disrupting this monopoly is coming from market-based solutions that prove you don't need government intervention to deliver affordable medication. You just need to remove the parasitic middlemen. Mark Cuban's Cost Plus Drugs is the most visible example. It's an online pharmacy that sells generic medications at cost plus a flat 15% markup, a $5 dispensing fee, and shipping. No insurance required, no PBM involved, no games, and the price differences are staggering. Medications that cost hundreds of dollars through traditional channels are available for $10 or $20 through Cost Plus. It's not magic, it's just transparency and cutting out the layers of extraction that the traditional system depends on. What services like this demonstrate is that the high prices aren't inevitable. They're not the result of manufacturing costs or research investments. They're the result of a distribution system designed to maximize profit extraction at every possible point. When you simplify that system, when you remove the incentives to inflate prices, the true cost of these medications becomes obvious. And patients are responding. Cost Plus is processing millions of prescriptions, saving people thousands of dollars, and proving that there's a massive market demand for healthcare that's straightforward and affordable, rather than complex and exploitative. Now I want to go even deeper into what this resistance movement means for the future, because we're witnessing something bigger than just insulin pricing. We're seeing the beginning of a fundamental reimagining of who controls healthcare in America. Comment below. The monopoly is breaking. Let me know you see what's happening, because the next part is about where this movement goes from here and what role you play in accelerating it. If you've made it all the way to this point, you're part of something that matters more than you might realize. Most people will go through their entire lives paying what I've been calling the life tax, without ever understanding the mathematics behind it, without ever questioning why their bank account empties every month despite working harder than generations before them. They'll assume it's their fault, that they're not budgeting correctly, that they just need to earn more. They'll never see the invisible architecture extracting wealth from their survival. But you're not most people anymore. By being here, by staying through this entire journey, you've equipped yourself with something the system desperately doesn't want you to have: awareness. You're no longer a passive target. You're someone who can see the machine, understand how it operates, and recognize the difference between genuine innovation and sophisticated wealth extraction. If this video fundamentally changed the way you look at your medical bills, at your insurance statements, at the entire relationship between corporations and your right to stay alive, do me a favor and hit that like button. Not because I need the validation, but because it tells the algorithm that this information matters, that people want truth over comfortable narratives, and that we should keep making content that pulls back these curtains. And if you're not subscribed yet, subscribe now, because this channel exists to decode the hidden systems of power that shape your reality. We're building a community of people who refuse to accept exploitation as normal, who understand that awareness itself is a form of resistance. We need to reach more people before they're completely trapped in what I've been calling this neo-feudalist economy, where you own nothing, subscribe to everything, and exist permanently at the mercy of corporations that view your desperation as a revenue stream. Leave a comment below and write, "I see the system now." Let me know this landed, that you're carrying this knowledge forward, that you're part of the awakening that's happening right now across the country, as more people realize they've been systematically robbed and start demanding something different. Your engagement here isn't just metrics, it's proof that people are waking up, that the propaganda is failing, that the carefully constructed illusions are starting to crack. And here's the thing, if you think what we just uncovered about insulin is disturbing, you need to understand that these same financial structures, this same extractive logic, is being applied to every other aspect of your life. Your home, your car, your software, your entertainment. Everything is being converted into a subscription model where you never own anything outright, where you're perpetually paying rent on your own existence. I've got a video that breaks down exactly how the subscription trap works across every industry, showing you the playbook they're using to turn citizens into permanent renters. It's right there on your screen. Click it and keep going with me, because once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. And that's when you can finally start making decisions that break you free from it. Awareness is the only real power you have in a system designed to keep you in the dark. Don't waste it. I'll see you in the next one.